of his room, and then he gets hit with a bat.
Up your butt, Joe.
Up your butt, Joe Boo.
I love that line reading. That's a perfect line reading. Up your butt, Joe Boo. And then he gets hit with a bat.
Oh my God.
But I liked Serrano in this a lot. And Haysbert, he didn't want to, this is one of his first major movies, and he didn't want to shave his head. He was worried that first scene he shot is when he's praying to Joe Boo and everyone gathers around him. That was his first scene. So he was really, worried about that. But I also liked how this director, he brought in people from the, Caribbean. He brought in, all different types of baseball players that you could really feel.
Well, one of the things that I read online, which I'm sure you read too, but all the main characters are inspired by real baseball players. For instance, Pedro Serrano is inspired by Orlando Cepeda, who apparently really did have like a whole shrine set up like that. And he would pray to his God to give him, more strength while playing the game. Huh. And also Wade Boggs, who reportedly would always eat chicken right before he played the game. That's why they put that line in there.
I saw Wade Boggs hit, I think, his 3,000th hit. He jacked a home run for his 3,000th hit.
It's like that chicken worked out for him.
Eat that chicken. And I love later on the bucket of chicken.
I love that. He shows up. He's like, man, like Serrano says he's gonna sacrifice a chicken for more strength. And he's like, we need a whole chicken. All right, I'll think of something. And they show up later and he goes a bucket of chicken. He's like, here you go, an entire chicken.
That's the wily veteran kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I also love, I know we're going back to the beginning, but I love when we first see Wild Thing pitching and he just throws it up and busts the board. And the one guy doesn't hear him throw it. He's like, sounded like it had velocity.
Yeah.
The velocity sounded good. I kind of love that about him. And then when he puts the glasses on and Willie Mays Hayes is like, it's not worth it.
Yeah. Those are actually cool glasses. I'm wearing one similar to that.
I just like that, he couldn't read. Like, that's a good coaching right there. And then I liked Willie. I always remembered Willie Mays Hayes, putting up his steel gloves that he stole the bases on. I thought that was really cool.
He nailed all the gloves to the wall.
And then he kept wanting to hit the ball really high. He kept doing pop. So Wesley Snipes did that. And the director was saying how hard it is to hit the ball up. It's just pop-ups every time. And so Wesley Snipes was actually doing that.
Wow.
Yeah. So he was saying he was really great at batting and catching. But I liked how he was he was just friendly. I like the scene where he and Charlie Sheen are on the bus trying to trade magazines to read. Like, that's good character stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, and when Berenger runs the bases and Wild Thing,
that was out of here.
That's still
still in the air.
Yeah, and he's like, "Was that a curveball?"
Yeah.
And I love. So he goes. Pete Vukovich was a pitcher, the main bad guy in the Yankees.
Yeah,
and he had facial hair, which wasn't allowed on the Yankees.
Yeah, and also he had one of the guys had long hair, which was not allowed either.
And I just love how this pitcher who had never hit a home run became the bad guy.
Yeah,
but I love when Charlie Sheen was talking about the ball he hit. He's like, the last ball he hit off me is still in the air. Like this movie has a really good. It's very quotable, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, people still quote it. Just a bit of that.
Yeah,
and I think it has enough character beats that really work. Yeah.
Yeah. I'd say that also, I read that this was like one of the most quotable films amongst, men aged like 25 to 40. It's like one of the most quoted movies because, everybody remembers it just a bit outside. And even every time we look up a review for this online, everyone always, that's usually the title somewhere of their review. Just a bit outside. Yeah. It's such a great line. But one of the things I thought was interesting was that Ricky Vaughn was inspired by Ryan Dern, who was a pitcher for the St. Louis Browns, now the Baltimore Orioles, and the Yankees. Apparently, he was also he was famous for the Coke bottle glasses, as they called him. But he could throw balls that were about 100 miles per hour, but he had terrible aim. I guess is the best way to put it. Same thing with Ricky Vaughn, but they kind of modeled him after him.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean, yeah. And, let's see, who else? Oh, the dude ripped off Charlie Sheen after that, and Wild Thing came out every time he would pitch.
Yeah.
And he changed his number, but he never mentioned Charlie Sheen or Wild Thing, so he just stole it, and Charlie Sheen's still mad. He's like, give me some credit, man.
Yeah, come on,
Charlie Sheen hated that haircut.
Really?
Yeah, he didn't want it. Because he said, at the time, whenever he went out to bars, right, people would just mess with, hey, Charlie, you slick guy.
Yeah,
and so he was always getting into bar fights.
I'm sure.
So when he would go out to bars with that haircut, there would just be more comments. And he's like, which would lead to more bar fights. Because everyone made comments to me at the time.
I'm sure, yeah.
So it was pretty interesting.
Especially for the late 80s, that probably was not exactly the best thing.
And he did not want, he's like, it just made more comment. He didn't care about how he looked. He just knew it would lead to more bar fights.
Yeah, Yeah.
That's a problem you had for a long time. And bad knees.
Yeah. That's why they call me Chris Berenger.
And this whole movie, I did feel like Tom Berenger had bad knees.
Yeah, I really felt his pain, especially like remember the last time he runs and you can hear the crunch. Yeah. It's like, ooh.
He did have sciatica during this because he was always bending, and so everyone was always in pain.
Yeah,
Wesley Snipes was sliding a lot and complaining about it.
I read that Tom Berenger's character was actually based on Carlton Fisk.
Really?
Yeah.
Carlton Fisk?
I thought because apparently Carlton Fisk had started developing like really bad knees, and they used to go to him for a lot of advice there towards the end. I was like, that's pretty interesting.
I like that. Any final thoughts about this movie? What do you got? Or do you want to move on to your recommendations? What do you think?
No, I think that's pretty well wrapped up.
I mean, we nailed it.
Yeah,
we crushed it. We put this in a headlock.
I think it's really interesting how they really did base a lot of these characters on real people.
The director knew a lot about movies, baseball, and so he wanted to make a movie for the Indians who were terrible. So I kind of love that. Oh, this is it. Wait, Chris Kelly recommendations. Chris Kelly.
Oh, wait, I did want to add one more thing. So,
rewind.
If you do want to watch Major League, it's now streaming on Hulu and Amazon Prime.
Hey, now.
So, yeah.
Thank you for that.
So, my recommendations that I want to do, like I've said before, is that like whenever I do my recommendations, that you think of this podcast as the main course, and my recommendations is like a beer or a wine that complements the meal. So it's not like a directly similar film or TV show. It's more something that would complement it.
Did you double check IMDb?
I actually got this from Rotten Tomatoes.
Okay, good.
Woo!
There you go. We're covered.
The first recommendation I would have is the show Brockmire, sorry. That's streaming now on Hulu and AMC, the AMC app. It's Hank Azaria who plays a baseball announcer, which is kind of like Bob Uecker. In the first episode, he has a meltdown about he caught his wife cheating on him, and not like just like I guess you'd say traditional cheating, but like a full on, very very
like old school,
very graphic way of cheating. And it's pretty fun. It's funny what he says, but he's a baseball announcer and he slips this in while he's announcing the baseball game. And then he has a meltdown and starts screaming and yelling. Apparently, it's based on his Funny or Die skit. I started watching this show. There's 3 seasons of it right now. They start filming the 4th season soon. I didn't think that it was going to be that funny because I was like, well, it's only like a one-note thing because he's a baseball announcer, so he has that baseball announcer voice throughout the whole show. But it's actually really funny. Like, I mean, there's a really like in season 3 especially where him and his co-announcer Tawny Newsome, who's a stand-up comedian. She plays as co-announcer, and they're talking about their real world like problems while announcing the game. So it's just like they're going back and forth. It's like, and strike 2, and they go back.
It's like current day.
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah, it just came out. The 3rd season I think just ended like last month.
Brockmire, love it.
It's a great show. Strongly recommend it. My next recommendation is Bull Durham.
Oh yeah,
the 1987 classic. That's streaming on Prime, Hulu, Tubi, Pluto, and pretty much every streaming service ever.
If you haven't watched it, you should watch it.
Oh, strongly recommend it. I watched it again last night just to keep it fresh. It's first time writer and director Ron Shelton. He was nominated for an Oscar for this. He also went on to do White Men Can't Jump and Tin Cup.
I love White Men Can't Jump and Tin Cup.
That's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
I love that movie. But the basic premise of that is Crash, who's played by Kevin Costner, is an older minor league baseball player who played in the majors briefly. And then he goes back to the minors to, I guess, they say in the movie to mature a Tim Robbins, who he gives the nickname Nuke because of his wild like throwing. And what I found interesting was that a lot of reviews that I read of Major League some of them were negative, and it was because they said it was a direct ripoff of Bull Durham. Because there's a lot of scenes. If you watch it again, there's a lot of scenes that are very similar. Tim Robbins' character is very much like Wild Thing, very fast arm, but he throws all over the place. He just needs control, which kind of like with Charlie Sheen's character is all over the place until he gets his glasses.
Yeah.
You have the aging character who's trying to help out the other baseball players, who's Kevin Costner is Tom Berenger. It's just they came out like pretty much one right after the other. A lot of reviewers and critics weren't really big into Major League.
That's not fair.
Because I don't think it's fair.
He wrote it in '84.
I don't think it's fair either.
Yeah.
It's just like that doesn't make any sense.
And they're based on baseball players.
Yeah. I mean, there's similarities, but it's like it's not a direct ripoff. It's not like you're talking about like like when
there's a love triangle.
Yeah, same. Yeah. Same thing with a Major League and with.
But it was more prominent because it was Sarandon, Robbins, and Costner, right?
Well, Sarandon and Robbins. Sarandon plays.
She's awesome.
Well, she plays a character that's kind of like a baseball groupie. And that's the beginning of the movie, is her explaining like she won't have sex with anyone unless that they have done X amount of home runs or pitches. And she explains this whole thing about why the men that she specifically will and will not have sex with. And then she meets Tim Robbins, who was only 29 at the time.
Jeez Louise.
Hey, it definitely shows too. He looks very immature in that movie. Babyface Robbins. And she sleeps with him. But she's thinking about Kevin Costner, and then the movie, you can figure it out. It's very stereotypical.
Great baseball movie.
It is. It's a really good movie too. It's worth the time, but it's also on Netflix and Vudu.
Would you recommend the Costner baseball trilogy? For Love of the Game, Field of Dreams?
For Love of the Game is a great film. I said that to my girlfriend last night when I showed her
Sam Raimi.
Durham. Yeah,
it's a good movie.
It's a great film. Very well done.
Great picture.
Good call.
Some good gags in it.
Just a bit outside.
Bob Uecker's wonderful as Costner's dad. And
also in Brockmire, what I thought was interesting was that they mentioned Bob Uecker.
Hey,
they did in the one episode. Like the one guy, he was like, he says he's the one baseball announcer when they go to Brockmire to do an intervention, and they say, "Oh, why are you even here?" He goes, "I don't even know why I'm here. I'm supposed to be." He's like, "I got a job with Bob Uecker, so I don't give a crap about him." And it's like, hey, it's like, lastly, I want to recommend the movie Mr. Baseball.
Hey, Selleck.
Yep, 1992.
Goes to Japan?
Yep, goes to Japan. He doesn't do so well in America anymore for the New York Yankees, so he gets moved to Japan to play for the Dragons. And it's definitely dated. It definitely has a lot of older jokes, very 1992, like late 80s, early 90s jokes. But it's still it's funny. It's not a boring film. It'll definitely keep you going. It also has Dennis Haysbert in it.
Really?
Yeah, he plays the other guy on the team.
I mean, he's good at baseball.
Obviously, yeah. He crushes it in the movie too. But one thing that was interesting with Mr. Baseball was that the guy who wrote it, one of the many writers. There's about like 7 writers on that movie. One of them, Gary Ross, he wrote Pleasantville and Big.
Gary Ross, wow.
Yeah, right.
Who directed it?
I can't pronounce his name, but it was like Silico.
John Smith.
Yeah, right. Come on, Chuck Finley.
Yeah.
One of the other writers, Kevin Wade, he wrote Junior and Meet Joe Black.
Oh wow, so big pedigree on this.
Yeah, there was definitely a lot of big names on this. Well, some of them were big early, and then some of them became big later on.
Yeah.
But I enjoy it. I watched it again this morning. I loved it. I thought it was really good. But just to keep in mind, it is dated.
Yeah. Tom Selleck playing baseball, man.
Yeah, you can't beat that. And it ends with him wearing his Detroit Tigers hat. It's pretty. There's a lot of cheeky little lines.
Is it true that he didn't use a bat and he just let his mustache hit the ball?
Yes. God, it hurt like hell. The scene where he just he says, "I got to do what?"
No, he just stood there and the thing swung out from his head.
But that's all my recommendations.
I love it. It was fun, Chris Kelly. Thank you for recommending Major League. And then we're going to do Young Guns.
Hell yeah, we are.
Yeah, this is going to be fun. We got to just keep the Charlie Sheen train going on here.
Then we're going to do Judgment Night.
Oh, hey.
I love Judgment Night.
That's the best.
Dennis Leary.
That's right. Ooh, I remember watching that movie back in the day.
That was the first rock, metal / hip hop crossover, too. That
was Ice-T and...
Biohazard, I think.
Yeah.
Body Count and Biohazard. There's a bunch of them on. It was Onyx and Biohazard. I was like, dang, now that's a song. There was a lot. That was a great soundtrack, man.
I haven't watched that movie. Isn't Steven Dorff in that movie too?
Is he? He would have been around the age range because
a young guy, right?
Cuba Gooding Jr. is also in it.
Yeah.
I think they're all supposed to be like 25 to 30. So yeah, he would have been around that age.
We need to look this up.
Yeah, well, IMDb it.
Or am I thinking about Alone in the Dark? Directed by Uwe Boll.
Hello. Was that Tara Reid was in that?
Yeah. And the Slater.
Yeah, that was when Christian
Slater
went downhill pretty damn quick.
Oh, well, he's back.
Yeah, well, he did. Was it
Mr. Robot?
Mr. Robot. I haven't seen it. That's starring the guy that's in like every
Rami
movie.
Malek. He's great.
I think it's in Hollywood contracts that Rami Malek has to be in literally every movie.
But
now.
he's put his, he's been acting for a long time. He was in Pacific. He was in a lot of movies. Master. He's been churning out good work for a long time.
I remember him in The Master. He's really good.
Yeah, Pacific. Have you seen that?